Hi everyone, just a few more comments from me. Unfortunately, my microphone on my telephone has gone down. I've switched to a laptop-based program called Audacity. It's free and you can also edit audio quite well on that. Just to say that I realise I haven't been making videos where I've been showing myself in person. I started doing that, but then I stopped trusting a few people. I had various levels or degrees of Zersetzung put on me. I also often feel too tired to make videos in person as well. I mean, I have had sleep deprivation now for nearly 3 years, so sorry if it is less interesting without a video. So just sharing some thoughts about this program. I think we all recognise now that the Zersetzung program eats us away from the inside, so it's a bit like having a human form of HIV. I know in my case, they have enjoyed trying to get me to just live in a permanent state of unwellness and stress constantly for years as a way to break me down from the inside. And they are causing ourselves to destruct. It's very difficult for us to be caught in the hands of enemies, and this is not the first time this has happened in history. This is a technique that they have been using quite openly on many world leaders, and one of the great examples I came across recently is what happened to Gaddafi in Libya, and how he was slowly eaten away at. He was deceived. He was his character was smeared in the public. He was blamed for the Lockerbie bombing. I don't now believe he was truly to blame for that. He might not even to be blamed for the policewoman who had been shot in England. Okay, he might have caused a commotion there, but they had got someone to shoot a police officer in the fray and then blame him and then turn the public against him. Okay, and that's how he was brought down, and he didn't realise he was being brought down that way. He thought he was doing the honourable thing by compensating the victims, thinking, oh well, you know, he saw the evidence, the so-called evidence that this piece of equipment that had been manufactured in Libya had been found at the bomb site of the plane, so he assumed that he was somehow vicariously to blame. He took the blame for that, he lost the support, and then they ended up cornering him. Now what they did with Gaddafi was in a way similar to what they had done to Saddam Hussein. The difference in Saddam Hussein's case is that in 2003, Saddam Hussein really genuinely was a naughty person. He was quite naughty. I mean, you know, quite naughty. He was very naughty, and you know, they built up a case against him. They got international support, and they brought him down. The international case against him, if you remember, though, was the Twin Towers. So, and as we know now, that was an inside job. So, the idea that Lockerbie was an inside job as well is just obviously quite clear and obvious. But what I think, while Saddam really was a very dangerous person, individual, people who do things like the Twin Towers are equally dangerous, and I think that is a grave lack of perception that started with, you know, with the Twin Towers and hasn't really got any better since. Remember, of course, that Gaddafi had been consciously intending to sponsor groups that were fighting for freedom, groups that considered themselves to be fighting for freedom against larger, more powerful oppressors. You see, you know, when we take a second look at all the revolutions in the Middle East, we can see now that these whole movements could well have been started by perps, by agents. You know, they could have been started by technology, using this technology on civilians, directing them into a course of action, making it seem as though it's a grassroots movement. The damage that they caused in Libya hasn't stopped to this day. They've got Obama to act like Africa's biggest traitor after Gaddafi calls him the son of Africa, and then Obama turns around and he's murdered on Obama's watch. Of course, that whole thing was done as a professional quote-unquote NATO job. I mean, they did it in plain sight. They just bombed his entourage, which is essentially the next step away from bombing a diplomat himself, you know. So what I mean is that we have to look at the way in which these people are leading people into dangerous situations, into situations that they cannot recover from. And I think that many leaders in the Middle East are making massive mistakes at the moment. Some people are conspiring to bring everybody in the Middle East down. It's been country after country. Conflicts are being started and are not ending for decades. Infrastructures, migrant crises are being generated. Of course, you have to wonder now what's happening with Saudi Arabia and why they are being publicly paraded as, you know, the next sort of bad Middle Eastern regime. What is going to go on there, I think, is going to be, well, I think we are watching this as it takes place. I will just say on that I think everyone just wants the humanitarian crisis to be stopped. But this is not the only example of a humanitarian crisis. And as I always say, there are a lot of high-level perpetrators who are part of this network of global suffering, who remain deeply hidden in the shadows. And the only way that all this mega suffering is going to stop is if the real perpetrators do come to the surface and are exposed, and their actions are exposed. And I've always said this, that while in 2003 perhaps they were able to win public support for the war in Iraq because Saddam was such a dangerous person, they no longer have right on their side. They don't have the moral arguments on their side at the moment. These people are child murderers and child burners. These are the dangerous people now that have to be contained. I found this book recently called The 33 Strategies of War, and I definitely recommend it to you. It's available on audiobook, and I will put the link to that video in the description below. But you can keep it playing while you're doing your business, or, you know, cleaning the house or cooking food. But it's jam-packed with understanding of military strategy and all the strategies that these people are basically following. So it's like a manual of how to deal with harmful, larger, aggressive oppressors, basically. Sorry, by the way, I'm just going to actually add as well in this video that I am experiencing a number of strange, unexplained health problems. At the moment, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, my nose has completely blocked up. Okay, my nose is blocking up all the time. I've got to use heavy decongestants at the moment. I've also had a problem with my sinus for a long time. It seems to have gotten really worse. In the last few days, however, I have not smoked cigarettes. I've cut out cigarettes and I had been smoking for a while. So there is no way I could have been as unhealthy as I have been recently. I've been taking vitamins, I've been eating healthily, I've been eating 100% vegetables, plants, fruit, smoothies, organic this, mineral water. I've been taking vitamin pills, vitamin C, health supplements, ginger, all kinds of things to really boost my immune system, and I've been sleeping a lot better as well. So there's no reason for me to have just lost my breathing ability. I'm just going to have to take a decongestant at the moment so I can sound a bit better. So yeah, my nose is completely blocked up. I've just used a decongestant, but I definitely think that they have some weird thing where they like to make people take medication. They like to make people think that there is something wrong and that they need to take this continual medication. I saw it with another TI. I don't know if I should mention his name, but okay, I won't for the moment. But I saw another TI who recognised that they were a TI, but also seemed to think that taking medication was also necessary. As I say, I don't think that most of these TIs need medication at all. I don't think anyone needs medication at all. I'm watching at the moment as my mother has been woken up every single hour after she had come out of hospital. This was at the time that they started to wake me up every single hour. She was taking heavy medication. She was exhausted from surgery, yet all of a sudden she was waking up every single hour. My mother had a hard time believing what was going on. But they are forcing her to take medication on a long-term basis, making her think that she needs to take medication and forcing her to take it. They've done it to other TIs. They tried to do it with me, with the sleep deprivation when it first started happening. I went to the doctor and they recommended me take these pills. So I took these pills, and I could only sleep with the pills, basically to sort of, obviously, to make a false connection between me and the sleep and the pills. But obviously it wasn't the pills, it was them. You know, but they do that not with people who are aware that they are TIs, but people who are not aware that they are TIs. And I think that shows some kind of psychological disorder. And we have to remember that these are the same people who are releasing Ebola into Africa and things. You know, doing Planned Parenthood. You know, giving anti-conceptionals to Ethiopians to without them knowing that they're taking anti-conceptionals. People who have a different view of other people's bodies, sickos, okay, and the reign of the sicko has to end. You know, we have to come together as a people and contain these people. Some people should be in Broadmoor. Some people with their ideas and their behaviours should just be in Broadmoor because they're not acceptable for mainstream society. So yeah, I'm just going to add again that there have been several occasions where I have fallen for the Zersetzung program. I've doubted other TIs. I've made it worse with other TIs. You know, I've blamed other TIs when they haven't done it. I've obviously wasted my time with a lot of perps as well. But a major thing I will point out is the impact of technology on the brain. So for example, you know, what happened with me is that, you know, they were building up these triggers and these things that were annoying me, and then all of a sudden other TIs were saying the trigger words. Okay, now I realise now that that is completely technology making them say these trigger words, but at the time I thought that the TIs were being malicious, you know. And I'm sure it's happened the reverse. You know, I think they set me up, making one of the TIs think that I'm lying, making another TI think that I'm stupid and I haven't understood that it's bigger than racism. You know, basically what happened is they made me think that a lot of TIs were in on it, so I was speaking out in public, and that ended up turning a lot of TIs maybe against me, maybe them thinking that I was a weak person. So, you know, I've kind of come through a few stages of Zersetzung, you know, but I really call on other TIs again to come through, and we have to come through together. We have to start being able to work together better. I think, you know, it's down to us in a way to be able to overcome that Zersetzung, you know, and to be honest where we need to be honest with other TIs and things like that. So I'm starting to notice that the technology can make people, you know, excessively angry, excessively paranoid, and one of the techniques I've learned from that is to just not respond. I think what happens is TIs are running to the public, they are gushing their story out, they are not being strategic enough, they are not showing the wider evidence, they are focusing on their evidence only, okay? That is too vague for a lot of people. A lot of people can't understand, a lot of people are not really paying attention. When people are not paying attention, it's too difficult for them to grasp the individual story, especially when it's gushed. It's spoken from a subjective viewpoint rather than an objective one. I've got lots more to say. I've said quite a lot in this video. I'm going to edit it now and get it up, but more to say soon. Thanks very much everyone, sending good wishes.